Right.
We're live. Marvellous. Then it's 2 o'clock. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, e tēnā ahiahi. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along to the Vincent Community Board meeting for November 2022. Today, first up, I would like to welcome David Skeens, who is new to the executive leadership team. I think you've all had the opportunity to meet him now, and I'm sure you'll join me in wishing him a very warm welcome to his first ever community board meeting. So given that it is his first time at this table, Ms. Jacobs will be assisting today with the running of the meeting, so that hopefully we all follow along with what we're doing appropriately. Apologies for today. Community board member Tony Hemmington will be momentarily late, but we anticipate him here any moment. And we have got someone from the public forum today, I understand, from Winchester.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Andy's here.
Oh, sorry, Andy Daly, CEO of Winchester. Thank you. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. John,
Yes, come have a seat.
okay. Cool. Right, okay. Kia ora. Yeah, as mentioned, my name is Andy Daly. I'm the CEO of Winchester Charitable Trust. We formed the trust earlier this year with the encouragement of our team from TCO. This year is our third year of operation, but our first year as a charitable trust. Our main things we do are the exhibitions, workshops, and Matariki celebrations, and a lot to do with the schools in regards to education, inspiration, and the art of the night skies. Yes, we had 20 artists involved in the exhibitions, and we had 200 kids through for our schools day, and in all over 2,000 people through the exhibition, which is in the depths of winter in Alexandria. So I think that was quite a good number for what we achieved there. The Matariki celebrations, we had events at Clyde School up at Naseby, and Professor Brian Boyle, who was one of the members of our board, did some events over in Arrowtown. We also had an exhibition in Arrowtown this year as well, which had over 3,000 visitors right in the middle of the ski season. So it was very well received, and we had good sales from that as well. What we also did this year is produce this book. I'm not sure whether you've seen it. It's available for sale at Central Stories Museum. It includes a lot of the artwork from the exhibitions, and it's been very popular seller and good for your winter stocking, Christmas stocking. With the help of Central Lakes Trust, we've got one of them books into every school in the Central Lakes Trust region, so that's Central Otago and Queenstown area. What else have we done? We did a pilot scheme with what we're trying to do is trying to get some new and existing dark sky tourism ventures going. In the autumn of this year, we did a Cycle to the Stars, which included Ant Longman from TCO and Professor Brian Boyle, some random strangers which we dragged with us, and Simon Williams, who's a photographer, adventure tourism person. So that was very successful. We're going to do that again this autumn. It's just for that, usually for about the 6 weeks after the clocks change, when it's not too late before it gets dark and it's not too cold. So we'll do that in the autumn and spring shorter seasons, among other dark night sky guide events as well. Our aim is to, let's take a step back. One of the fastest growing tourism genres, niches before COVID hit the world was dark sky tourism, because 88% of people live in places where they can't see the stars, in cities, etc. So there was big increases in tourism to likes of Iceland, Norway, even South Australia around Ayers Rock. There's lots of operators giving night sky guides and stuff like that. Where we are in the world is the best place in the world, I believe, for night sky tourism, photography and all that. Southern Hemisphere, we can see all of the Milky Way, and we're also southing up the aurora. So we're trying to encourage more tourism things for people to do when they come here to see that. We did some talks with U3A to try and get the people on board with that, to appreciate what's above their heads. So we've been talking to the public in that way as well. And we've also, within them talks, we introduced ideas for how we can really identify Alexandra with the night skies. The half-mile reserve, obviously, is something you guys probably talk too much about, or you feel like it. But if there is going to be any development up there, I know the Central Otago Astronomy Society want to bring the observatory to a better location, which this could be a candidate to do that. And if that happens, there's lots of other things that can be done with that reserve in relation to the stars, such as nighttime skyline sculptures which work in with the stars, and whether it be Matariki or I think Kokowai, and the stories about that. If having sculptures, nightline skyline sculptures with the stars, it could be a magnet for all astrophotographers around the world to add to the bucket list for those to come to, reasons to come to Alexandria. I've actually covered nearly everything here about what we want to do, so we plan to repeat it a lot the same next year in regards to Matariki celebrations, exhibitions. But an extra thing that's developing quite quickly is based in Tekapo, is the Aotearoa Astrotourism Academy. So that's been put together by Professor John Hinshaw from Canterbury University in association with other astronomers, Kai Tahu, and other tourism operators that are gaining some success in night sky tourism. So we want to bring them to Alexandra. We've got it penciled in for March next year, although I may need to push it back to next spring. That way it will help us get funding to support that from the likes of CODC and Central Lakes Trust. We've got to wait 12 months before we can go back there. So hopefully we'll make that happen next year as well. And that will be good for operators, existing tour operators to send staff there or venues to send staff to, so we can get an education on how to give visitors here a true and accurate experience of the night skies and the narratives and the science behind it.
Andy, that's your 5 minutes, but is there anything else that you just wanted to cover off?
No, I think I'm done, and thanks for stopping me.
That's fine. I anticipate it's the sort of thing you can talk about for quite a while.
Yeah. So it's been really good for TCO to include a night sky picture on the front of their destination management plan. And yeah, we look forward to how we can help in the future.
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Andy about winter sail?
Not quite winter stellar, but the half mile, does that point the right way for the aurora?
Yeah, no, I've taken some good aurora shots from up there. Even one behind the Alexandra sign with the aurora in the gaps of the letters. So no, it's a very good location for that. And also you can get some good viewpoints looking to the northeast. So when Matariki's rising in June, the good thing is with Johndale Park there, it puts the town below the horizon of the hill of Johndale Park. So the lights from the town are suppressed really from the rest of the village on Dale Park, so it's a good location to make some viewing points for that as well.
Because it's sometimes difficult to find a place where the light doesn't get in the way without travelling quite, all places like that. So quite handy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We were very lucky 2 years ago from the park where that we managed to see it when we had the team there from the Tribal Museum, and it was -5 and the food on, and it was a magic event.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. So moving on to page number 7 of your agenda, we have the minutes from the previous community board meeting held on the 31st of October. I'm happy to move that those are true and correct. If someone, thank you, Roger, to second. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Toma, is a second?
Yes. Mike and Roger. Declarations of interest register. Just remind everybody to regularly peruse your interests and advise if there are any updates to be made. You can send those through to the phone. Now we move to item number 22.8.2, promotion grant funding report back from Winterstella. This is Alison. Got it? Oh.
You have before you is a report back from the Winterstella Trust on their activities in relation to the promotions grant they received last financial year, 21-22, and this is a requirement of receiving funding, but also additionally because we have pre-approved $10,000 grant funding from this current financial year. The conditions of funding were that the what was an informal group became a formalised entity, which is the establishment of the charitable trust, and that they ran a series of events. You've got before you a report from Winterstella just detailing the events that they've activated within Central Otago, and copies of invoices that show that funding was allocated as intended towards those events. So what I'm presenting to you is their report and seeking the board's support to approve the release of the current financial year's funding.
Thank you. Should that be enough? Anybody have any comments or questions on that report?
I'm happy to move A and B.
Thank you, Tracy. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Very much. Thank you. Now we move to item number 22.8.3, the Vincent financial report for the last 3 months. Done. Okay.
Hi. For today, Frank Dubauer, he is one of our accountants also, and he will fill in for me from time to time presenting to the committee. So as there's a few new members on the community board, I thought I would start by taking you through what is in the quarterly financial reports, just in case there's any questions.
Can you just speak up just a little bit? It's interesting. Thank you.
Okay, so I thought I'd take you through the financial reports and what's in them. So the financial report before you includes the activities for the Vincent ward, and that includes their budgets as well. Whereas the council financial report includes all the community board and council activities. So this is very specific to this community board. The first table in this report is the operating statement. So that includes your operating revenue and expenditure budgets and actuals. There's also comparatives with the annual plan budgets and the full year revised budgets. These are slightly different. So the annual plan budget is what has been approved by the council each year in a formal report, whereas the revised budgets are carried forward projects from the prior year and also other adjustments that have been made through the forecast process. So there is also, in the second table is the capital expenditure report, and this is the capital projects that are happening in the financial year, and these are broken down into the project's main activities, and we give commentary for both of these tables. And there's also the reserve funds table attached to this report. Susan's going to be taking you through this later in the adoption process and so in depth. So what I'll do is I'll start taking you through the first 3 months of this financial year, the 30 September. At present, we have a favourable variance of $107,000 against the revised budget. The operating income has a small favourable variance of $2,000. And so then we have the user fees as part of that. It has an unfavourable variance of $40,000. This relates to camping ground revenue. And since writing this report, we've actually uncovered that there was a budget incorrectly put in there for the Clyde camping ground. And that is now under lease management rather than the community board collecting revenue directly from campers. So that will be adjusted in the next revised forecast. And that equates to $148,000 of budget. So also contributing in the operating income is capital contributions. So there's $30,000 from a Transpower grant that was carried over from the last financial year. And that is for the Clyde Hall kitchen and bathroom project. At this stage, I'm not too sure where that project is sitting in all the plan. Internal interest revenue is also lower than expected. So having a look through the reserve balances, we're actually behind in our Dunstan Park land sales revenue, which has reduced the balance of the reserves and the interest that will be gained from that as well. Into operating expenditure, there is a favourable variance of $105,000. The rates expense is showing as unfavourable here as a variance, and this is just due to the council paying its own rates in 1 July, whereas the budget is split out over 12 months. So this will be realigned in the forecast. So then we have grants, promotions, other costs, contracts, building repairs and maintenance are all under budget. These costs will vary from time to time as they're driven by plans and what needs to be done as well. So reactive expenses. So they do fluctuate. And then for the capital expenditure, a total of 2.6% of the total revised budget has been spent. So a lot of projects are waiting for decisions to be made before being carried out. For instance, the Alexandra irrigation project is waiting for some power lines to be installed before that can be put in place, and also in Omacare is waiting for the decision of where the Omacare community hub will be located before that will be carried out. And then the Alexandra library renovation project is in the design phase at the moment. Any questions?
Just wondered on that 2.6% CapEx, are those irrigation projects in the libraries, the library renovation, the majority of the rest of that 100%? Yep. Any other questions? Good, lovely to have you along, Frank. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
In that case, can I please move that the report be received? Roger, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carries. Thank you very much. We now move to item number 22.8.4, a report on the mayor, please.
Thank you, Tamer, and I had it open in front of me, but either because I'm old or the iPad's new, it's disappeared, but I had found it, so that is good. This is my first report to the new board, so firstly, congratulations to everyone and congratulations to Helena as being elected as chair. My last report to the VCB was 2.5 months ago, so I won't go over everything that I've done in that time, but quite a lot's gone on. Been to a couple of co-led business breakfasts in Alexandria. They've been very positive as always, and speaking of positive, I do want to go back to September and just note how very successful the Blossom Festival was. Absolutely fantastic event. And I've been lucky enough to be up on that main stage, either as MC or mayor or whatever, for more years than I care to remember. And it was definitely one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen. And I think everybody just had a blast. So congratulations got to go to the committee and of course to Martin for bringing such a great weekend to the community. And I also had really unenviable task of judging the Senior Blossom Festival Queen. I don't really want that again. From now on, Martin. No, it was a pleasure, but judging people, it's not really my gig. I also had the bizarre pleasure of commentating the Alexandra Parents Centre duck race. You did that last year, didn't you, Martin? It's a very strange thing. I tell you what, on the QT, if you ever get to enter it, both the winning ducks had broken necks. So they must get a bit of water in them and puts them down lower in the water, just a wee clue, you know. But it was absolutely brilliant. A couple of weeks ago, I was asked to go to TUI class at Clyde Primary School and explain to them why we'd lowered the speed in the town, but not by the school. It was great to give them the answer to that, which is the government's doing that eventually, so we couldn't, well, say the government, Waka Kotahi, and just great to be with 7-year-olds answering their questions. Attended and spoke at the Armistice Day commemorations and celebrations on November the 13th, given the state of the world. It was even more poignant than usual. Had a visit around a number of local orchards looking at their accommodation for RSE workers. There's a review coming up and people are being told you're going to have to put covers over like roofed walkways between accommodation units and the cooking facilities and things like that. I had a meeting with Minister Wood, he's the Immigration Minister of Parliament last week, so it was really good to get that on the ground stuff and be able to go to him and say, hey, is this really necessary? Also had a couple of meetings lining up with that with the CEO of Seasonal Solutions. Been to a lot of other meetings. When you have a new term, all the sector meetings and stuff happen. Sancha and I attended Mayor's School. In fact, Sancha and I were there for a little bit. We were, it's actually the Mayoral Induction meeting, but we all call it Mayor's School. And Sancha and I attended that in part as part of a panel discussion on CE mayor relationships. And I was one of the old heads in the room, and I did an add up. There's only 16 out of 67 of us have been 2 or more terms now. Normally in an election cycle, you lose about 1/3 of your mayors. We've lost 1/2. In fact, 1/3 of them had given up before the election even came along. So it's a challenging time for the sector. New blood's good, but it puts a bit of extra responsibility on the older heads, which mine now is. That was a large part of the reason that I allowed a nomination to go forward as the Zone 6, so that's south of the Waitaki. Representative on our Gen Z's National Council, which I was unopposed in. So I'm looking forward to the next meeting of that. Alongside Sancha, I attended the inaugural Zone 5 and 6, which is the South Island Mayor's or sector meeting last week, and the Rural and Provincial sector meeting. The Zone 5 and 6 was in Richmond, and the highlight for me was the trip to the Waimea Dam. That's scheduled for completion next year. Really good to get on the ground and talk to how they ran through it and everything, because I mean, look up the road, look up the creek that falls down, and that's what, as a community, we're going to have a look at the next few years. So that was really helpful. So that's been a segment of what I've done. That's been the highlights. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And I am happy to move that the community board accepts the Mayor's verbal report. Thank you, Tony. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item number 22.8.5. It's a delight for me to give my first verbal report on things that have been happening since our last meeting, which was not that long ago. what I thought we would do this term is report on just things of note or of interest or of importance that the board might be interested in hearing. So there is no particular pressure on any of you to come back with a chocker scorecard, although if anybody following my report would like to talk about what they've been up to, that would be great. So at the beginning of November, I was lucky enough to attend a hui in Wellington for the Tuia program, which is a program that the Mayor sponsors a local young Maori leader from our community to attend a number of wānanga across the year in different locations, connecting with other young Maori leaders. It was held at the convention centre down on the Wellington waterfront on a glorious day with not a breath of wind, which is unusual for Wellington. But it was really interesting for me to listen to a lot of these young people, and some of them were very young, some of them not quite so. Just their passion and enthusiasm for their areas. And I guess the takeaway from me was how many of them talked about the hui being a safe space for them to be unapologetically Maori, which they don't always get in their own communities. And I thought that that was actually a really important thing. We had a lovely young woman from here, Danielle, who Tim has been working with over the time that she has been our delegate, I guess, candidate person. And the feedback from not only the other delegates, but also some of the other mayors who were there is exceptionally positive, and there are some really great relationships built as a part of that. And one of the takeaways for me was one of the other mayors who spoke about how much he had learned from his delegate, and that it wasn't about him imparting wisdom, it was about him hearing a different voice that he doesn't usually hear from a sort of 19-year-old Māori girl that struts onto his office as frequently as she pleases, because he is based right on the main street of their town, so everybody can see who's in the office and who's not. So hopefully that is something that will continue in years to come, and the mayor will be looking for a new candidate over the next few months for next year. And then the other really interesting event that I attended was last Monday, especially given Andy's talk about the Winter Stella exhibition, which was a meeting that Joseph Mooney, our MP, had organised in Queenstown to talk about space and the different things that are happening not only in New Zealand but also in Central Otago around what is going on beyond our borders, out in the celestial world. There are some really exciting things. Central Otago is quite well placed with some of the programs and projects that we have going on already, but as Andy said, there is a big capacity to expand more, and definitely if anybody has an interest in this, I'm more than willing to share a lot of connections and websites and all sorts of things. And I would suggest if any of you, like me, have a teenager in your house, that you send them towards engineering and space when they leave school. So thank you very much. That is my verbal report for today. Happy to move that it be accepted by the board. If someone's happy to second, please. Thank you, Tracy. All in favour? And it's carried. And now we move to the members' reports. And I would like to invite Jaden if there's anything you would like to talk about first.
I attended via Zoom the AGM for the Umbrella Organisation for Community Networks Aotearoa last Friday. So we're looking at work in especially rural communities around banking for not-for-profits and governance training. So it's quite an exciting space. So if anyone's got any not-for-profits that want to learn more about governance, we've got that available. That's from there.
Tony.
Mine actually was the half of the trees. The four of us went up and got a different viewpoint on what's in the locals can see happening and what they like to see happen. View of the world is mine.
Central Otago Health Incorporated had their AGM, which was a positive meeting, and looking forward to, not necessarily looking forward to, but got some difficult times ahead with negotiating and unraveling some of the health reforms that is going on. So that was there, but also something just a little aside is also attended a meeting with the Menihira Exemplar Governance Group and the working group that has flowed on from that. So that's a really exciting thing for the Menihira Valley and a community. It's going to be a community-led project. So you'll see more of that coming up in the future.
Yeah. Guy.
Not very much for me. If you don't know, I'm down at the golf course out here, but just to let everyone know, we're seeing just lots and lots of people coming into our area. November especially, we're probably a couple of thousand that have coming over our course. So just to let you know that people are coming in. Just need to look after them.
Nothing.
I was a guest at TCO's event out at Northwood Station. At the a discussion centred around future planning for events in the region. And I was part of a panel which reported back basically on our experiences, the industry experiences through COVID, and great turnout. And then subsequently they had the gongs were given out for Eat Taste Central. And congratulations to Nichols for Capers because the afternoon tea was fantastic. I don't make sense, I love it.
Thank you, Martin. Roger.
Right, so I went to the AGM of the Central Otago Environmental Society, and of particular interest there was the fact that they spent considerable time considering the effects of climate change on ecosystems in the Central Otago region. So that's part of their long-term view. U3A resumed briefly for the year. It had been put on hold because of COVID for the previous early part of the year and the last part of last year. So they're good to get that underway again, and we've had a meeting to plan U3A for 2023, and it's a full agenda with people looking after a total of 6 series of 4 each lectures, so 24 lectures in that 2023. Blossom Festival, of course, that was a great day to see the families out enjoying themselves. I went to the 10th anniversary of the formation of the community plant nursery at Clyde. That's the one that's now run by Hainanau Trust. It started as a standalone nursery, so that was great to see that 10 years on it is flourishing. I went to the same workshop that Martin went to, run by TCO, and I also went to the AGM of Alexandra District Museum Incorporated, and that was the end of last week. There were more people putting their names forward for the board than for board positions, so I think that showed a refreshing support from the community for Central Stories Museum, and so it's a whole new place on the board. Yeah.
Very much. If someone move that we receive those reports, thank you, Martin. Seconded, thank you, Di. All in favour? Against? Carried. Now we move to item number 22.8.7, the November 22 governance report.
You would just go through those to see if there's anything of note.
Perfect. Okay.
We accept the report.
I'll second that.
Right. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Jaden. Any discussion on any of those items?
Can I just note, if I can, under the Dunstan Clark, it says that stage 4 is due to be released November. It might just be me, but I haven't seen anything. Has that actually progressed?
That was one of my questions too.
Yeah.
Do we have
Nobody
any?
here who would perhaps know.
No, no, it hasn't, and I'll check the date and let you know.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
We'll be getting an update after the meetings.
Yes,
Yes.
hopefully. And then on page. $35, which was the boundary fencing by the cemeteries. I just wondered, it talked in the previous update from August about letters being sent to each party inviting them to provide feedback, but then the boundary fencing was reprioritised for a later date. I just wondered if those letters had been sent.
Through the chair, I think they have, but I'll check, but I think we're talking individual people. Not everybody's approach, so we're doing some courses for courses one. It's taken a long time and it's getting people to move your boundary fence and all the other stuff. I'll get it clearer out.
Thank you very much. And then Alexandra stage upgrade at the hall. Awaiting the outcome of better off funding. I just wondered if there was an updated EPA set for it. Late.
We had hoped that we would hear about better funding by the end of October. So we're waiting.
Anybody have any additional comments on that? Yes.
Just had a question, Tamer, on page 43 in regards to the police lockup being moved at Clyde. It says it's over budget. Well, there's been unexpected costs. Do we have any idea what quantum they might be? Vague. I presume it'll come in a report at some stage. Just wondering out of curiosity, but be a bit unfair to ask it. Be handy to know that they haven't too.
Can we anticipate an update next?
Yeah, and then the increased cost would come through board as well.
Thank you. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further comments, all those in favour? Against, carries. The date of the next meeting is the 31st of January 2023. And the next item we move to, resolution to exclude the public for the reasons given on page 53. Thank you very much.
And for the chair, but stage 4 of Duncan Park is on the website now.
Great, thank you.
It's been very good.
So I'm happy to move that we exclude the public. Thank you, Jaden, to second. All in favour? Against, carried. No, something just makes me have to ask a really stupid